noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Man, it's kind of hard to be any more excited. It's kind of hard to be any more encouraged by sports here in the state of Utah than we are right now on a Wednesday signing day, seeing so many of these great youth sign here in the state of Utah with Utah, BYU, Utah State, and seeing these great kids make their commitments, knowing that they're going to be spending a good portion of their life playing ball for these teams, knowing that BYU is currently preparing with their extended head coach for a Big 12 championship game coming up this weekend. Utah waiting in the wings as a 10-2 player, looking extremely good down the stretch. I'm telling you, I don't think sports has ever been more rich here in the state of Utah than it is right now. And in order to just kind of catch up on this signing day, because it is a big day for a lot of these kids, there's nobody better than Will Snowden to jump on and catch us up on all things recruiting. Will, how you doing, bud?
Doing very good. Good to be on with you, Hans.
Well, I know it's a busy day for you, bud. Like, you're only dealing with probably, 50 kids today?
Yeah, about 40, dealing with about 40. But so how it works is I think we're signing 16 today, and we've got a few PWO people. I think we have 6 PWO. So we'll be done with about 22 kids today. And then I'll still be having fun for the next 2 months preparing for February signing. It's a very, very interesting time.
For those of you that don't know Will Snowden, you've been under a rock and you haven't listened to my show because he's my brother, and he is the owner and operator of Alpha Recruits. He helps so many kids find placement, jump into these schools out of high school because it's just so tough today. How much tougher is the landscape now than when you started this business, however, 15, 20 years ago?
It's night and day. I'll tell you, Hans, and I think I talked to you maybe off air, but it's just so hard. I spend all of my time trying to find opportunities for kids, and it just is harder now because you have a transfer portal, and coaches have gotten fat and happy with being able to take, older guys, more physical guys, more seasoned guys, and don't have to take as many chances with younger players. And they're also, you'll see more, top level kids ending up at, a lower level ball at first. And coaches have already evaluated it like, hey, this kid's really, really good. He will be able to play here, but he's not going to be able to help us right now next year. So it's kind of like, go to a lower level, develop, play a little bit, get bigger, stronger, prove that you can handle the college football level, and then they'll be coming calling in the next couple of years to transfer you up. So it's a very, very interesting time to be a young athlete because as you look at the signings each year, you're seeing the number of high school players going down. So it's a very challenging thing. And then also besides that, my guys who are signing Power 4 deals, we're working on their contracts and, the financial piece of it all. So it's quite challenging. And my beard and my hair is getting grayer by the day. And I've been trying to figure out, I'm old, but I'm only 48. It's like, damn, I'm getting pretty gray, and I think a lot of it's a lot of stress that I carry with these families. As you know, Hans, I worked with you last year with Rock. It's just it's a stressful time, an exciting time, but it's definitely a challenge.
Well, there's a lot of great things going on in the state as well, and you've helped a lot of these kids find their home. Just talk about maybe 3 or 4 of the top recruits that you've got signing today, Will.
Well, we've got some of our Ridgeline guys. Cooper Clark will be signing this week. We the first day of signing is some guys wait a few days just because they're still in talks with schools. But Camille Sweetwine will sign today with I'm not going to announce it. He's going to announce it here in about an hour and 30 minutes.
Oh,
I'm
glad you didn't ruin that.
I almost did. And it's down between the University of Utah, BYU is in there. Also, North Carolina State and Sacramento State are all in the hunt to win his services. And then we have Trayden Bessinger, quarterback at Davis, signing with Iowa. So we've got really good things going, and it's an exciting day. I love to see the kids celebrate all of the things that they've done to accomplish this, because it's such a hard thing to accomplish in today's day and age of college football. And I just feel completely blessed to be a part of helping kids take this first step. But one of the things that is also interesting is you realize it truly is just that first step, because you're hoping that they land at the perfect place and they're able to spend the 4 to 5 years there happily and leaving with their education and leaving with a great legacy of football. But as we all know, in this day and age of football, you're hoping that it's not really the case. So I would say, probably of the signees in the state of Utah that are signing today, I'll say 50% of them will finish at the school they sign with, and the other 50% will end up somewhere else. And that's just the name of the game. So it is what it is.
What's it like for one of these top recruits like Ryder Lyons? I just saw Rivals put out a tweet that says news elite BYU QB commit Ryder Lyons doesn't plan to sign today, according to this reporter. How tough is it for a guy like Ryder Lyons, who was a 5-star commit, dropped a 4-star, which is unexplainable because he's currently in a playoff run doing amazing things? What kinds of emotions is he dealing with, and what kind of tug-of-war is he dealing with?
Well, yeah, you saw I didn't talk about Ryder, and I do work with Ryder, and it's a lot of emotions, right? Being Ryder Lyons in general is distracting. He's quite famous, huge following through all of his social media, and he's just such an exceptional kid. Not only on the field, he's just a really good kid with a great head on his shoulders, and it's a lot to deal with when you are a 5-star, and he is. He'll have his 5th star through everything by December, by the end of December, January, when they do the final composite score. But he's kind of trying to stay focused on this situation with being in the playoff. They got a big game this weekend, and just because he has not signed yet does not mean he's not going to sign. The last day for early is Friday, and there's just things being discussed that need to be some things that need to be figured out, because there are some different changes that have been made rules-wise with signing, because there is a financial piece to it, that he wants to just make sure that everything is just proper, and that's probably all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about it. So we'll see. I think that BYU fans will be happy before Friday, and it could be by the end of the day. But it just is what it is with what's going on with Ryder.
That's what I was saying, Will, too. Like some of these bigger recruits, all the things that go into it, because a lot of times there's a lot of dollar amounts that have to be negotiated, and I'm imagining there's attorneys involved in signing now. Would there be attorneys involved nowadays?
Yeah, attorneys or agents. I mean, so this morning, I'll be honest with you, I was up to about 1:30 in the morning dealing with a contract, a Power 4 contract, and then was up at 6 a.m. dealing with that contract and changes and things that have to be done. And it's a lot. And that had to deal with sweet wine this morning. And that thing did get figured out about 10:30 this morning from just some things that had to be changed. So, yes, attorneys, agents, I have a full agency that deals with that part of the business. That's been something we've added to our repertoire. I work with a lot of kids, college players right now that, I represent through the transfer portal and through their financial means, so that they're getting the best possible deal and doing fair deals for the school as well.
Will Snowden, he is the head and operator of Alpha Recruits. He is Scotty G's best friend. He's my former teammate. and kind enough to join me on a day that Scotty G decided to take a flight. I guess he's got some basketball stuff that's really important, Will, so we'll let him do his basketball things. Moving on a little bit from recruiting and jumping into Kalani and his extension, what does that mean for BYU? Just the magnitude, I guess, of the size of contract that they're signing with Kalani, and what it would mean in the grand scheme of things for BYU football.
Well, I think that it really sets it sets a tone for the support and the belief that they have in Kalani. I've always been a little disappointed in the handling of Kalani since he's been the head coach. You know, we've had extensions, but no real huge pay raises. And just in what I think they proved to him his worth this week when when Penn State came knocking very seriously, and that was a close deal for Kalani to be gone and be in the Big Ten, which is obviously most guys' goals who are in this business. So I think that them re-signing him and signing him to a long-term deal gives him and his family what they want and what they deserve. And more importantly, like I saw Festi tweet this yesterday, that Kalani is BYU. He bleeds it. He loves it. This is where he wants to be. There is not a coach that you could replace him with that would be more committed to the school. And you know, I'm a very close personal friend of Jay Hill's. I think he's an exceptional coach. Everyone in the world knows he's an exceptional coach, but I just don't think you'd have more buy-in to what BYU is, what it stands for, than Kalani Sitake. And what he's done has just been absolutely amazing. I mean, I've lost 25 games, 23 victories, came into a Big 12 really competitive league, and took his bumps and bruises the first year, but, you know, was close to being bowl eligible that year, lost some tough games, and then came back and gave him 11 wins last year, and then, you know, I've given them 11 wins this year with a chance to win the championship and a chance at the college football playoff. He's worth every dime, and I think he's an exceptional ambassador and face for BYU. I love seeing it there, and I can't say enough. I'm just so proud of my brother, and I'm happy for him, and you know, hoping for the best on Saturday as they go out to play a really good Texas Tech team.
So, Will, it sounds like his negotiations did include maybe some money for facilities, money for NIL, money for assistants. And it feels like he's almost forced a growth with this leverage and opportunity he had with Penn State. How much can that help a university and its football program grow?
Well, I'll tell you, it is helping. I mean, I'll be honest, obviously, with the Ryder situation, I've been on the phone with a lot of guys this morning from BYU at camp. And I think that, number one, just the overall exposure that Brigham Young is getting based on what they're doing in football and what they're doing on the basketball court, what they do in all sports has gotten a lot of eyes. BYU is now a destination that top athletes, but not high school kids, college kids from major organizations, major schools, agents reaching out to BYU. So everyone always talks about tampering in college football. The reality is all of college football has a tampering issue, and it is what it is, but it's not the players, it's not the coaches, it's agents talking to their player, and the player saying, hey, man, that BYU is pretty dang cool. You know, it's pretty cool. What's up there? Can you see if there would be opportunities for me there? What does their roster look like? So BYU, what Kalani has done and his staff has done, has put them on the map to have to make really tough decisions because they're going to have a lot of top-level athletes trying to come and play under Kalani and be a part of what it is they do and how they do it.
So, Will, you know, this contract thing takes you into Tuesday, maybe some distraction over the weekend. But I got to imagine Jay Hill, Aaron Roderick, they were all focused on the task at hand here coming up on Saturday. Do you think that this coaching situation distracted from the team, or do you think it could potentially galvanize and almost accelerate the team with the announcement that Kalani gave on the field? I'd like to know your thoughts on that, just the distraction aspect of it, and then how well you think BYU is set to compete against Texas Tech.
Well, number one, I do think that Kalani handled it very well. He didn't kind of, skate around it. He let his team know that they were in talks and and he did not tell them, I'm staying on Monday. He didn't say that. He said, these are there's things that are being worked out. There is conversation with Penn State. There is an opportunity that I might be at Penn State. Just speaking candidly to his team. And I think the honesty is why his team loves him. Right? These players today understand more than anyone that this is a business. This is a business, and the fan base doesn't always understand that it's a business for these players, right? They're playing sports. They're putting their lives on the line every time they get between those lines, and they understand the business end of it because they're being paid now. And they understand if they're performing at a very, very high level, they deserve to be paid at a very, very high level. And Kalani Sitake is performing at a very high level, so what do you think they expect for him? To be paid at a very high level. And they will use that when negotiation times come up with what they've been able to do this year, how they performed on the field. And they'll want to be paid fairly for what they've done. And so I think that it isn't as much as a distraction as we may think, because in our day it would have been a huge distraction, but we weren't also paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do what we were doing. You were living off of tuna fish and Big Macs. I mean, I think I saw you eat 8 Big Macs in one day one time, and so it's a little bit different. So these kids are more hit to the business side of college football, and so I think they're able to stay more business-like. But I think that at the end of the day, BYU handled it well, and Kalani handled it well. He told his kids the truth, and because you can more now. Back in the day, these things were going on. Lavelle was getting opportunities to go coach other places. Those opportunities were there. Right now, every single coach that coaches for BYU, Utah, and even Utah State, they're being contacted by other schools that are interested in their abilities to coach football. So I think that the kids understand that, and they're going to come out prepared and ready to play. But I will tell you, the emotion that they're going to feel, the emotion that I expect them to show when they step on that field this Saturday, is going to give them a nice edge. I think they're going to be right in this game, and I think this might be enough to really push them over what people are expecting them to do on Saturday. I think they're going to play a great game, and I think A-Rob will have them prepared. Jay is going to have them prepared, and I'm sure Kalani's going to have an emotional, fiery pregame speech.
Will, can't thank you enough. Appreciate all you do, and let's be honest, me, you, and Kalani, we all survived on Bamboo Hut and Sounds Easy Pizza. Because that's about the only thing that we can afford, buddy.
And I'll tell you real quick as you go, sometimes I still crave that Bamboo Hut. Even now, as you said it, I could see myself in that line asking for more ribs and, and trying to get enough to take a little bit home for maybe dinner too. So, several days I ate Bamboo Hut.
Do you remember that gravy on the noodles?
Oh, of course I remember the gravy, and I had it all over the ribs too. The way it would, and I've never seen a gravy, and I've never seen a gravy like that ever again. I think that's what gets me what I crave is that gravy.
Yeah, man. Jimmy Beatham's still doing it, man. He's still catering with Bamboo Hut. So him and his amazing wife, they're still killing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up, and I'm gonna go back. I don't know if my stomach can handle it the way it once did, when multiple days a week, maybe 4 to 5 days in a week. But I'm gonna give it a good old try again.
You give it a try. Good luck on the rest of signing day, and appreciate you, Will.
Appreciate you guys. You have a great one.
There you go, Will Snowden. He's the CEO of Alpha Recruits, signing a lot of these athletes. Danny Ainge coming up next.
Gets you ready for Utah football more than the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready?
The season isn't over yet for Kyle Whittingham and the Utes as they wait for their bowl game matchup to end the year. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Danny Ainge joins us here in just a second. We are live at Tim Daly Nissan in Southtown. Tyler is losing his mind because he's headed out to Arlington this weekend, and he wants to move some cars off his lot. So come in, take advantage of the Hans deal, which is going to send you to Arlington after you buy a car, or take advantage of the Tyler deal where you don't have a payment for an entire year, but you're going to be driving one of these new Nissans off the lot. Beautiful vehicles, tons of options here, so come down and check that out. Also, I just want to remind you, Kenny J's, their amazing barbecue and what they can do for you. Kenny J's Catering delivers bold, smoky barbecue no matter the occasion. Check out the catering menu at kennyjsbarbecue.com for weddings, work, or any event. That's kennyjsbbq.com. kennyjsbbq.com. I had Kenny J brisket and his turkey for Thanksgiving. We just finished off the last morsels of Kenny's brisket. It was delicious. I've got a little bit of turkey left in the fridge. Probably make me a turkey sandwich when I go home. As soon as that's gone, then I head right back out to Kenny J's and I get some of that fresh barbecue. Absolute deliciousness at Kenny J's. Utah Jazz are doing their thing, but I'm really excited just to talk to Danny Ainge about Kalani Sitake. I know that Danny has a great relationship with BYU. I know that Danny has great interest in BYU. So we'll talk to Danny a little bit about Kalani Sitake signing his new deal. Also, we'll talk about the Utah Jazz, who are currently 2-1 in their last three, beating Sacramento and Houston. They had Houston in an interesting back-to-back here in the Delta Center on November 30th, and then you played them again Monday on the 1st of December. You get the win 133-125. And, of course, it was the usuals that showed up. Lauri Markkanen is continuing to do his thing, and we're watching Keontae George really grow into something special with the Utah Jazz. So got a lot to speak on the Utah Jazz with Danny Ainge as well. They also start a 2-game road trip coming up tomorrow. They start with Brooklyn on the road, and then they head to New York, take on New York on the road. And then they kind of get home for a minute. You're going to have 4 of your next 5 are going to be at the Delta Center after this 2-game road trip. You're going to get Oklahoma City, Dallas, the Lakers, and Orlando all here in the Delta Center before Christmas. So an opportunity to go out, just check out this young team that's continuing to bloom. I mean, honestly, 2-1 in the last 3, showing some great signs with some of this youth and finding a way to get that win, that number 2 win on the back end of the back-to-back to Houston, I think was a fantastic sign that this team is really going. Excited to talk with our next guest. It is the legend, Danny Ainge.
It's time to talk Jazz basketball with the CEO of the Utah Jazz and NBA legend, Danny Ainge. With Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Danny, thank you so much for joining us. First and foremost, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was great. I went with my son Austin and his family, and my daughter and her family, Taylor, and Brad Stevens and his family joined us in Vegas, where we were all watching basketball games.
Oh, wow. Still close with Brad, huh?
Very close, yes.
I'm glad to hear that. Seems like an amazing man. Great time at Thanksgiving. Obviously got enough to eat. I got to imagine, is the conversation all basketball at the Ainge family Thanksgiving?
No, my daughter doesn't. My daughter doesn't allow it. But her son, my 13-year-old grandson, demands it. So.
That's an interesting dynamic. Your daughter's saying, "No, we're not doing that, Dad," and you've got grandson saying, "No, let's talk about this. Let's get into some of this." I got to imagine that's an interesting dynamic at the table, Danny.
Yeah, it's fun.
I want to talk about this Kalani Sitake signing because I got to imagine you've built a relationship with Kalani, and I want to kind of get your thoughts. BYU sealing their guy that they've had for 10 years that's done amazing things. Just your thought on the contract. And then also, I think you and I have a perspective as former BYU athletes, just the growth of BYU sports and the willingness to commit to something like this.
Yeah, I mean, I was really excited to hear that yesterday, and I know B. Sant's been trying to get that to happen, and no, I'm sure it's a big stress relief for him, and big stress relief for Kalani, and move on, and couldn't be a better time to have a big boost of momentum, and everybody loves Kalani, and he's a terrific coach and even a better person. It's awesome.
I know you said B. Sant, and just so everybody knows, that's Brian Santiago, athletic director at BYU. And Danny, I think you, as well as anybody, could talk on Brian Santiago, because I saw as this deal potentially looked like Kalani was going to go to Penn State. There was a lot of negativity, and I had to step in front of a lot of it because I don't think people understand who Brian Santiago really is. From your point of view, what kind of athletic director is Santiago?
He doesn't want to lose. That's one thing I learned about Brian when he was 8 years old, when I coached him in junior jazz when I was at BYU. And I've known it ever since, on the golf course and the tennis court. He doesn't want to lose anything. And he's a great competitor. And, I didn't think that I never really seriously thought Kalani would leave. And everybody that I knew was talking, he's going to leave. It's, all the betting polls have him leaving and, nonsense like that. And I said, dang, I should make him a lot of money. Because I don't think he's going.
Yeah, when you got the inside track. Danny, I never felt like he was going either. But I do appreciate the fact that when he had the leverage, he seized it. And I do think that it pushes BYU into an aggressive, competitive level as they pay their coach a big-time contract and add money into NIL. And I know from my point of view, calling the color for these football games, it's nothing but pure joy for me to see BYU and their athletic programs really starting to blossom.
Yeah, there's so many sports across the board at BYU that's fun. The cross-country team finished second in the Nationals. The volleyball team's in the NCAA for the women's volleyball for the 14th or, 20th time in a row. But it seems like every year, the golf team is fun to watch. Like all the sports at BYU are fun. That's why I moved back to Provo instead of even Salt Lake, but I wasn't planning on living or working in Salt Lake either. But I was coming back to watch BYU sports. I love all the sports.
I love that about you. It's fun to see you at those events and see you at those basketball games, and I think it gives BYU fans a lot of hope to know somebody like you is giving that backing and cheering them on. I know it's a lot of fun for me to see when you're down there with B. Sant. And you're hanging out with Ryan Smith, and you're seeing the group down there just supporting this team. And I know this basketball team is going to be special too. How much excitement is there for Kevin Young? Is he feeling pretty good about things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the team has played as well as they're capable of, which is good. They've had a pretty good start to the season, very good start to the season, beat some good teams, and I think that they haven't played their best yet. I really believe they're going to get better and better as the year goes on.
Well, it seems like that's what the Utah Jazz are doing as well right now, Danny. 2-1 in their last 3 games, avenging a loss to Houston in that final game as Houston gives you back-to-backs. Just talk about this team in this 2-1 run that they're currently on. What are you seeing from the group?
Well, it's always good to beat a good team and a good team that's trying hard to win. They played their top. They played their top 4 guns. I think Durant played 40 minutes, 38, 37, 38 for the big 4 of Houston, and that tells you a little bit about how much they wanted it. And so it was a good effort, and our effort was way better. Our effort was more we had more resolve. We obviously had something to prove. Nobody wants to be embarrassed like we were in the first game of the back-to-back, and our guys responded.
Obviously, Bailey gets the start in this game, and Ace has a nice game, a nice effort. It feels like he's starting to come into his own. He ends up with 13 points, goes 3 of 8 from 3, pulls down 3 rebounds. What are you seeing from Ace in still some of the early stages of his NBA career here, Danny?
Ace he's got a big upside, and he's working hard on his game. The coaches are spending a lot of time with him and training him up, and he's a joy to be around. And I think Ace is fun to watch. It seems like more and more he's, looks like an NBA player, and his defense is getting better, and his offense is getting better. His rebounding is getting better. He's been a joy to be around, and I think he's got a bright future.
You guys have this road trip to New York. Are you in New York now, or are you headed out later tonight? Or
no, I'm not going to New York.
Okay, you're not making the trip to Brooklyn and taking on the
I'm
next.
spending this time of the year mostly scouting. Just it's a time of year where you can see a lot in small dose in the same place, and so I'll be doing that mostly this time of year.
Hey, Danny, as you're scouting, what is one or two attributes of an athlete that pop out to you?
Well, I think that self-motivated players that love the game, typically have more resolve and just work a little harder. And they got to not just love playing games, but love the work it takes. We've seen that in Keontae this year. And by the way, what a great bounce back game by Keontae last night. Oh, and Filipowski and Walter, they had great games last night. They played really, really well.
Yeah, looking really good for Keontae. Some of the numbers he's putting up, 28 points and puts up the 8 assists in the back end of that back-to-back with Houston. It's nice to see Keontae really start to bounce and jump. Danny, I ask you about the attributes because I always get asked because today is high school signing day with these universities, and I always get asked from parents that have athletes, like, what can I tell my kid to do? What do you think that the recruiters are looking for? Because, Danny, it's so much more difficult now to get looked at by a university out of high school. It's just so tough because the transfer portal. So I'm always looking for things like I always look for explosion. I try to look for an explosion in athletes. But there is a toughness that when I just go to a football game, I can see a different level of toughness. Is that toughness as obvious on a basketball court as it is on a football field? Yes.
There are some players that are extremely tough. The difference between basketball and football, though, other than a quarterback, you kind of got, simpler things to do. You don't have to play quarterback and defensive back and linebacker and running back. Like in basketball, you got to play it all. You got to be able to pass, shoot, dribble, think for the team. Everybody's got to be a quarterback on offense and a linebacker on defense. That's what we're all looking for. And that's a little bit more challenging than more specialized types of positions and body types. So if that makes sense. But, yeah, toughness stands out, absolutely, and lack of toughness stands out. But what I will say about, the age that in basketball, you're drafting guys at 19 often, and like Keontae is a perfect example. He's a senior in college right now. And in most cases, that senior in college is coming out of football. And Delonte's tough. And Delonte's emotionally more stable. And Delonte's a much better athlete, got more bounce, got better conditioning, better focus, And so we see, like, just in the 3 years he's been with the Jazz, you can see that progress. And even though I wouldn't have labeled him as a great athlete. I wouldn't have labeled him as a great shooter or the toughest guy or the best conditioned. But I saw a lot of hope and potential in him, and I think we're starting to see that now. But that's the difference between basketball and football.
I love it. It's funny, but when I watch Walter Clayton, I feel the same. I just see, he's a little bit older in terms of a draft pick, in terms of adding an athlete in the NBA. And maybe you can see a little bit of the maturity. But when I see him play, I do think linebacker. That's it's one of my first thoughts. And I know he's got some prettiness to his game too, but he comes across to me as a really tough individual.
Yeah, he's had an up and down beginning, and he's a shooter and the focal point of the national championship team last year, and now he's a player trying to fit in with Keontae and Lowry and our scorers, and so he has to take on a different role. I remember when the same thing happened to me when I was coming out. That was tough. There's consequences to missing shots when you're playing with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish. You can't just
don't get away with it.
You're not the best player. You're not shooting, freely, and it took a year to adjust. And I was a good shooter my whole life, and I was a good shooter after my first year of my career. But my first year was tough, and it's just a mental game. And you don't get to play every night. You don't get to play the minutes you're used to playing. You don't get in a rhythm. And I can feel that a little bit with Walter. But the last few games, he's starting to play with a little more confidence. He's made a couple of shots. He's made some driving lanes. He's getting some rebounds. He's filling up the stat sheet in short minutes, 18 minutes, he's getting, 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. That's pretty special.
Well, I wish I could get you to Arlington with me for this BYU Texas Tech rematch in the Big 12 championship game, Danny, but I'm sure you'll be watching, and I'll see if Greg and I can give you a little bit of a shout out there in that game.
Yeah, I will definitely be watching every second of it and rewinding.
It's going to be a good one. We'll talk about it when we get you on next week. Next Wednesday, we'll kind of go over what we saw, and sure appreciate your time, Danny.
All right, guys. Happy holidays.
Yeah, back at you. Enjoy it as much as you can. Danny Ainge out there recruiting like crazy, just scouting, making sure he's finding all the talent that he can possibly find. It is the perfect time to scout because you've got these early NCAA tournaments that are just packed with talent. So you get into some of these places and you can really see a bulk of talent. Kind of interesting who he spent Thanksgiving with too. I mean, that tells you a lot. Danny never stops working, even when he's sitting down for a holiday dinner. He's sitting in there with great friends that know a lot about the business. But appreciate Danny taking a few minutes. Take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll get you some what you may have missed, and then we'll be kicking off your Cougar preview show starting at 1 o'clock. 97.5 DKSL Sports Zone.
Let's go! Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's a Big 12 title game showdown for Kalani Sitake and the Cougars as they square off against Texas Tech for a spot in the college football playoff. Exclusive Big 12 title game coverage on the Zone is presented by JCW's, the Burger Boys. Quality and a lot of it. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
So excited to kick off the Cougar 2 hours with the legend, the king of all voices, the man that makes the magic in the booth for the BYU Cougars, the great, the one and only, Greg Wrubell. Greg, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. I wouldn't be what I am without you, Hans. Great to be with you today and always.
Oh, man, it's so great to hear your voice. And I saw the picture you put out of the booth and the angle of the field, and I'm sitting here by Tyler, and I can't even think straight because I can't wait to be in that booth and be on the field. Just talk about the nest, how the field looks, and is it the same booth that you've called a couple of the other games from in that stadium?
Yeah, certainly the Oklahoma game. I'm trying to remember. It felt like for the TCU game, since it wasn't a postseason game, it wasn't one of those special games like Oklahoma was. It might have been closer to the middle, but I tend to believe it was the same as well. So at AT&T Stadium, you're pretty high. You're way up in the corner. Quite frankly, for radio, it's suboptimal. I mean, when you're radio, you kind of have to see, pretty much everything at the best angle possible because you are the eyes for your audience, and it's great where you're between the 30s at least. And we've had some venues, Hans, that haven't been that, but they haven't been too far outside the 30s. But this is very different. This is behind an end zone, high up in a corner. Have his work cut out for him on Saturday morning, as will we. You'll have the binoculars firmly affixed to your eyes throughout, and you'll be tempted to call the game off the big screen that extends across the field. But it's awesome. It's a great venue. It's an unbelievable setting, and it's an awesome game. And so you don't quibble too much. But yeah, if you're a radio guy and could have your druthers, you'd want to be somewhere between the 30s. Kind of mid-level, and this one is just not that case. I think, but we're not, we're in the same booths that, that the Cowboys and their opponents in Spanish radio use up in that corner too. So that's kind of the way it is. A lot of NFL venues have gone that way. They've kept the prime real estate for hospitality in the middle, and they've kind of pushed the broadcasters in, at least the radio broadcasters, to the corners, which is ironic because radio is kind of where you need to have the best possible vantage point. Long answer to your question. Yes, I think it's the same booth I was in previously, and look forward to getting in there Saturday morning and seeing how it all feels in person. But it should be a blast either way.
It's going to be a blast. And speaking of a good venue, it's now being reported that venue is sold out. And I was sitting here kind of having a conversation with Tyler and Lloyd and talking about being there in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl against Kansas State. I felt like it was 80-20 BYU fans. I know Texas Tech is very close, drivable distance, and I'm sure they're buying up a ton of tickets. But how do you feel about the Cougar Nation making the trip to Dallas and a lot of Cougar Nation that lives in Dallas? What do you think that stadium's going to look like come Saturday morning?
Well, whichever tickets were available for BYU fans to buy, they bought. I mean, there's no doubt that BYU will represent well. Yes, Texas Tech is the more proximate team. It's a much easier get to for them. But, it's not like everyone's coming from Utah for this game either. We already know that, if anything is around Texas, BYU fans are going to find their way there. So I look forward to an outstanding atmosphere. And I think the Big 12, if all goes well, I might be seeing a few BYU Texas Tech matchups over the years to come. Both Joey McGuire and Kalani Sitake both got extended yesterday. Both have strong footings in terms of resources, and so this may not be the last time they meet in a postseason. Certainly, you want to see BYU in that game as frequently as possible. But just the fact that BYU got to this game in year 3 of the Big 12. What a major accomplishment. The fact that BYU tied for first in this league in each of the last 2 years after just 1 year of a runway. Amazing. What BYU's done in a power conference setting, going 22-3, 15-3 in the league over 2 years of power conference football, coming right out of the independent ranks, basically with only 1 year to kind of get your feet wet. It's an incredible accomplishment, and it has to be honored and respected. And even if BYU doesn't find itself playing in the college football playoff in either of these last 2 years, they certainly prove themselves worthy on a national scale, even if the committee or the national media don't properly recognize it. And yet, with all that said, Hans, I'm looking at this game Saturday as a playoff game. It's a play-in game in a lot of ways, right? I mean, BYU knows they win and they're in. If they don't win, we've already seen how the things look with the committee right now. So I think the playoffs already begun for BYU. And normally in a true play-in situation in other sports, you're playing a team that's kind of on the periphery, on the fringes of trying to get into the playoff. It so happens BYU has to beat one of the best teams in the country in their play-in game, which is different from a true play-in, if you will. And Texas Tech, I mean, they're right there. I mean, their numbers. You go through them, where do you find a soft spot? Where is the Texas Tech soft spot? Where are they not very good? You have to really, really strain your eyes to find an area where Texas Tech isn't exceptional. And if there's one area where BYU could maybe hope to have a difference this Saturday, Hans, I think that BYU, when it's going well, and the first game in Lubbock was not a good offensive game for BYU. LJ Martin was still not himself yet. But I think, Texas Tech, if it lacks anywhere, the offense probably lags a bit behind the special teams and certainly behind the defense. As good as BYU's defense is, Texas Tech's defense is elite. And even if LJ were at full speed that last time, how many yards would he have gotten? Because Texas Tech is the number one rush defense in the country. So, it's as tall a task as BYU's ever going to face. And, it'll take an outstanding effort to be in the game with Texas Tech. But having been through it already, Hans, I think it gives BYU, if not an advantage, it gives BYU maybe something they can turn to that the Red Raiders can't. In that, we talked about this in postgame. Texas Tech kind of feels, well, if we just go do what we do, we'll be fine. It was good enough to beat BYU. It was good enough to beat everybody else, thump everybody else. Let's just go beat Texas Tech and we'll be fine. Let's just go be ourselves. We'll do what we do. BYU doesn't have that luxury. They can't go into it saying, let's just do what we do and we'll be fine. They've got to do something different than they did against Texas Tech a few weeks ago. And so, BYU has more motivation to do things differently and ideally better than they did a few weeks ago. LJ Martin's feeling better. The special teams, you wouldn't count on making the same kind of mistakes they made in that game, and they all came in they came sequentially so quickly and so early in that game, Hans. It really threw BYU off. And so by the end of the day, there you see BYU at minus 18 yards and average starting field position margin, minus 3 in turnover margin. Those two numbers alone, you're dead. You're dead. Mm-hmm. You can't win that game. And so if they just flip those two numbers, Hans, I'm looking for that. If they can just play even or a little plus in average starting field position, and if they can be even or plus in the turnover margin, their chances to beat Texas Tech go up exponentially.
Agreed, totally agreed. I know that we got to wait until this evening to see our initial reports for injuries and availability, but Chase Roberts has been a name that everybody's been looking at. We saw Austin Liusa go down on the field last week. He did come back in the game.
He came back, yeah.
Do you have any insights into potential the potential usage of a Chase Roberts or maybe an Austin Liusa?
Well, we'll wait for the reports, but I mean, I think these weeks have given enough time for guys like Chase Roberts and Waylon Lapuaho and even Sione Moa to I think feel being close to back in the mix. Let's wait till what we see online tonight when the reports come out. But I think enough weeks have passed that you can start thinking about maybe seeing those guys back on the field. And it would be the perfect time for BYU, as tough as the task is going to be on Saturday. So nothing determined yet, but I'm going to look to see if those names pop up in something less than doubtful or out this week. We've seen Sione out for so many weeks, hasn't played a conference game. And wouldn't it be nice if he finds himself able to get back on the field at this time? Chase, I think the hope last week, Hans, was that if they sit him against UCF, they could play him against Texas Tech. And then Waylon Lapuaho, when he was injured, I don't think it was considered to be a season-ending injury. And so I think the door was still open for Waylon as well. And so those three names, again, nothing firm yet, but those three names would be three really, really important names to have back for this game on Saturday. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. All right, so, Greg, you kind of went through the success of BYU over the last 2 years, and we saw that lead to the pinnacle, which went down yesterday evening, the announcement of Kalani Sitake and his extension. If you would, just give us your thoughts. And I know you build great relationships with these coaches. I've talked to Bronco. Bronco absolutely loves and adores you. I know you were close with Lavelle. I know you've been close with Kalani. Getting to see a friend of yours with this extension, what does it mean to you, and what do you think that this extension means to BYU?
Well, what it means to BYU is they can expect to have Lavelle Edwards-type longevity with a guy who most closely embodies Lavelle as a person and a person of importance to the program. I think he's that big. I think the commitment to Kalani is unprecedented, and I think his commitment to BYU will be reciprocal. It's great that his name gets brought up for big-time jobs because that means he's having big-time success. But I think what BYU's done now is put him in a realm, and I don't think the specifics are necessarily the be-all and end-all here, but I think they put him in a realm and his program in a realm where there won't be too many other programs that can come and say, we can do what BYU can't. I think he should feel from this point forward that BYU can give him and his program everything it needs to succeed at the highest levels and levels commensurate with those teams in the Big Ten or the SEC. And if you have that, plus everything else Kalani values about the BYU program and about Cougar Nation, you've got a really good situation. And I don't think we're going to be doing this every year, Hans. I don't think this is going to be an annual exercise. I think this is a moment in time. I think there are certain programs that spotted openings to take a run, but I don't think this is going to be something we have to deal with every year. And I think the size of the commitment and the measure of the commitment that the school have made to Kalani and his staff and his players will have to ensure that. And so, I think as long as he keeps winning games at the clip he's been winning games, and I don't think that should change in the years to come, I think you've got someone that can be here essentially as long as he wants to be. And I hope Kalani's the coach as long as I'm doing this. That would be my hope. And I know you as a teammate of his and a friend of his have to feel the same way, that you'd like to work with nobody other than the guy we get to work with right now. And you're right. I mean, BYU's been blessed with great head coaches and great coaches to work with. Bronco's right in that mix for me. I mean, those were really enjoyable years with Bronco Mendenhall, and I learned a lot from him about how to do my job and what matters in football. I was still young when Lavelle was the head coach, but all those years on the sidelines that I spent with Paul James, those 9 seasons, those were Lavelle Edwards years. And I got to walk the field and be around him pregame, halftime, postgame, and get the full Lavelle Edwards experience for someone who was not a player. And so, yeah, I consider myself super fortunate to have this run of great men to work with and be around. And I think Cougar Nation and the BYU football program is going to benefit immensely from this latest commitment to Kalani and his staff.
Greg, as I saw the videos come out yesterday of the announcement and then his press conference and some of the tears that he shed for fans, his players, his family, and then seeing the announcement that he made to the team on the field, there was a worry that this could be a distraction. After watching all the videos, seeing the players' reaction, don't you feel that this could be as much of an inspiration as it could be a distraction?
Yeah, a rallying point, right? I mean, is there a more motivated team in America than BYU right now? How could there be? You've lost to Texas Tech, so you get the chance for payback. You know what's on the line. It's win and you're in, right? You can't trust the committee at this point. And then you just got your guy for the foreseeable future. And early in the week, there were questions whether, that would be the case or not. And so it came early enough in the week that they can get a regular work week in with no distractions now. I think Monday they might have been a little bit maybe off kilter, just wondering how serious this thing was. Maybe even into yesterday, the thoughts, is this going to happen or not? And then it comes early enough in the week that you can go full effort and full focus. And now you're kind of doing it, to support Kalani and show everybody that this commitment was grounded in something that can be translated into success on the field on Saturday. And so, yeah, I think BYU is going to be the most motivated team in the country this weekend for those big reasons, and having Kalani be part of it, I think can only help to inspire his program. This extension, to only help to inspire his program and his players this week.
Well, I'm leveraging Greg for a 12-hour pregame and a 12-hour postgame attached to this Big 12 championship. I have not got the commitment from Matt Baiamonte yet, but I would love it, Greg. But I don't think it's 12. We're kicking things off. It'd be 8 o'clock local.
We'll be 8 o'clock local, and we tend to put together between a 7.5 and an 8.5 hour broadcast. And I think Saturday will be certainly in the same realm there. It'll be a fantastic day of football, and just to be in this position is extraordinary. When you were independent, 3 years ago, in fall of 2022, you were finishing your last year of independence. You flash forward just 3 years, and you're the team with the most wins and the most league wins in the Big 12 Conference over the last 2 years. You're tied for first in the league in each of the last 2 years. And after losing out on tiebreakers last year, you get into the big game this year. And if BYU wins, The Big 12 will be a two-bid league, and I'd love to say even if BYU lost, the Big 12 will be a two-bid league, but we can't say that right now. Last year, I draw a lot of comparisons to BYU and SMU, right, from last year. SMU went in as an 11-1 team to the ACC title game, lost to Clemson. Even with that second loss, the committee put SMU in. SMU's benefit was it was 3 spots higher in the rankings, I believe, than BYU is right now. And you could argue that the fairness or unfairness of that. Certainly BYU shouldn't be behind 3 two-loss teams, but that's the way it is. If they were where SMU was last year, they could lose this game on Saturday and still be in the field. But 1 year later, the rankings look different, and as much as I'd love to rely on the SMU precedent, we know we can't. The committee would have to do a total about-face, a total reversal to bump BYU with a loss to Texas Tech, so you can't count on it. You can't count on them. You can't count on the media. You can't count on anybody but yourselves right now. And that's the real rallying cry for BYU, Hans. It's we can't count on anybody but ourselves. We have to do it ourselves. We have to win to get in, and that's the setup.
Well, I know you and I will give the effort. We'll be in the booth. We'll be calling this game. We'll start the pregame, 8 o'clock local. You get to hear Greg. You get to hear Matt Baiamonte. You get to hear myself, and take you right into the game, right into the call. And we'll bring the energy. We'll bring the insight. We're going to have a lot of fun, Greg. Thanks for the time today.
Hans, I'll see you soon. Appreciate you.
Yep. We'll see you out there soon. I catch a flight Friday. It'll be right after the show, 4:25, fly out to Dallas, wake up early Saturday morning, start that pregame, take you right into the coverage of the game. We got a lot more coming up. This is going to be a busy show. Mitch Juergens is going to join us, and so much more. Keeping it all BYU all the time for your Cougar preview show right here on 97.5 DKSL Sports.
Let's go! Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's a Big 12 title game showdown for Kalani Sitake and the Cougars as they square off against Texas Tech for a spot in the college football playoff. Exclusive Big 12 title game coverage on the Zone is presented by JCW's, the Burger Boys, quality and a lot of it. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Excited for our next guest because he's better looking than me. He's more intelligent than me. He gives better insight than me. He was a better BYU football player than me, makes more money than me, and Greg likes him more than me. It's our sideline reporter, Mitch Juergens. Single tear coming down my cheek as I talk to Mitch. Mitch, how are you, brother?
I'm good. That intro, I don't know how accurate that is.
Oh, across the board, it's accurate. You know it. You know it across the board, especially Greg liking you way more than he likes me. But just had Greg on. We just had a blast kind of going back and forth on this BYU Texas Tech. I'm calling it a rematch. Some call it a Big 12 championship game. I don't care what label you put on it. To me, Mitch, this is a rematch. And when you think about what happened on the field from game one, what do you see BYU needing to do to get the win in game two?
Oh, there's a lot. I could probably take this in a lot of different directions, but I'll try and kind of condense my thoughts here. Number one, and it's probably the obvious answer, you have to control the football. Don't turn it over. You got to win that turnover battle. I mean, when you go look back at last week last time BYU played Texas Tech, 3 turnovers to 0 takeaways. You're not winning that game. You're not staying in that ball game, regardless of how well the team played outside of those turnovers. That's just when you play a team as good as Texas Tech, it's going to come down to, in a lot of instances, around that turnover margin. And if BYU can improve there, protect the football, and then if the defense can generate some takeaways, which is hard to do against Texas Tech. Baron Morton he's protected the football really well. Just 4 picks this season, and they've thrown the ball, really well across the board. He's averaging just under 300 yards a game, and so to do that with just 4 picks, it's going to be challenging. But this defense has proven to rise up, and I think that's going to be one of the big things there. Outside of that, offensively, you've got to mix it up. I felt like, the last time that they played, I think BYU is just too predictable and too conservative. And I personally just want to see Bear Bachmeier get loose and them to say, you know what, like, we're going to throw the rock. We're going to come out fast. We're going to, I'd even love to see it when the offense takes the field for the first time, go 2-minute offense, go fast, just mix it up and really just declare to Texas Tech, like, hey, we're here to make an impact. We're here to do some unique things offensively and just to keep that defense on their toes, because this is the best defense potentially in the entire nation. And so I want to just see some mix-ups there. Don't be too predictable, not too conservative. Like, if you're going to win it, go win it. Don't try and just win it by hoping that they make some mistakes. So, I mean, those are kind of the two things that I'd say, learning from that first matchup, what I want to see in this next one.
So, very interesting and different finishes to the season for Texas Tech and BYU. BYU has at Cincinnati, and then they finish with UCF. It's hard fought. And then after you finish with UCF, you get into this coaching contract, and Kalani Sitake sit down. With Texas Tech, you have a bye week, and then you've got West Virginia, which was done within 2 quarters. That game was over, and most of their starters were sitting. So you've got a bye week. You had a very easy West Virginia game, and Texas Tech, there wasn't as much speculation with Joey McGuire leaving. It was always assumed that he was going to stay, but he also got an extension yesterday. So much different kind of worlds that Texas Tech and BYU have been living in for the last 3 weeks. What do you think's more beneficial, and do you feel like maybe the way Texas Tech finished this season could be a distraction? Maybe they're getting too confident, or do you think that it was good for them to have all this time off?
Yeah, I mean, you think just naturally that these bye weeks are super helpful, and I'd love to run the data on this. I'm sure Greg, if we put Greg up to the task, he could give you some crazy stat about it, like teams coming off a bye week, what the record is, because naturally you think that the rest is going to help. You get guys healthy, and then you come out and you're ready to go. But to be honest, I don't know if that's always the case, because sometimes you want to get in that groove. You want to feel like, hey, we've done this now 2 weeks in a row. We've fought, we've battled. And assuming you don't have a ton of injuries where you need guys to specifically rest to recover and then get to full health, it might even be better to just have this momentum of playing week after week. You're in a rhythm, you're in a good cadence, and so that potentially could play in BYU's favor there. As far as the coaching situation, I saw the live video of Kalani announcing that at practice that he was coming back, and you saw just how excited and just happy that the team was for Kalani to stick around, and I think that can add some motivation. Like, look, we just we got our guy paid, we got our guy back for multiple years. Let's go prove to everybody and go finish this off the right way and show everyone that this was the right decision. And I think if I was in that locker room and I was a player, I'd be wanting to do even more this next game, to be more buttoned up, to be more dialed and ready to go, because Kalani's our guy. Kalani's my guy, and I think they all want to prove that.
Man, that's the truth, isn't it? Kalani is a leader of men. Everybody feels like he's their best friend. Everybody feels like they can rely on him. And I saw all those motivational videos. And I got to imagine, Mitch, your time with Bronco Mendenhall was probably pretty incredible. And I'm sure you had a lot of great memories with him. But just seeing him being taken care of, seeing his emotions, I know I always kind of followed Lavelle Edwards' emotions. I was always very connected to what he was thinking and what he was doing. I got to imagine you were the same with Bronco, and I got to imagine this crew's the same with Kalani, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was in an interesting situation, or a different situation when Bronco was coach. So in 2015, Bronco's last season, that was my junior year. So we actually got the news prior to the Vegas Bowl against Utah that Bronco was leaving and that he was taking the head coach job at Virginia. And even with him leaving, like, we felt this sense of pride to make sure that Bronco went out the right way. And that was with him not even coming back. And you develop these amazing relationships with your coaches, but specifically the head coach. I mean, they gamble a lot on you, and they put a lot of investment and time into you as an individual, and you spend so much time in that locker room and so much time on the football field going through really tough, difficult situations that just makes the man that you become, the individual that you become, the hardships that you face and how you overcome those, whether it's injury, whether it's worrying that you have a spot on the roster or on the depth chart. I mean, it's a constant battle, and so to go through that with leaders like Bronco Mendenhall and Kalani Sitake, I think it strengthens that relationship, and so you want to do anything and everything that you possibly can to help those guys, succeed. And just what a cool moment for BYU to see Kalani's impact, to get him to come back, and the energy and the juice that these players have, just knowing that it would have been cool. I'm sure a lot of them would have been happy for Kalani had he left, because of the impact that he made on them as individuals. But how much cooler it is that he's going to just continue to ride it out with those guys in the locker room.
So, Mitch, we talk about this being a rematch, and I on my boards I keep notes of each win, how the win went down. With the Texas Tech game, I've got 29-7. I've got turnover margin was big, -3, and then I've got dropped passes were big. And I'm telling you, the JoJo Phillips drop is emblazoned into my mind. I think that was his first game back after missing the beginning part of the season. And that drop was so brutal. It was so painful. And it wasn't just him. I feel like every receiver that was targeted had at least one pretty blatant drop in that game. When you think of an opportunity to rematch and you think about your game against Texas Tech, how focused are these receivers on, by the way, no false starts, please? Because I think that there were either one or two false starts by receivers against Texas Tech, if I remember right, Mitch. No false starts, making sure if it hits your hands that you're able to come down with it. How laser focused do you think this group is to redeem themselves?
I mean, they're going to have to be, and I know for sure they are. I know Fessy, he's going to be preaching the exact same thing. Like, this is a game, and not just the opponent of Texas Tech. Like, they're a good football team, but then you add on, this is the Big 12 championship. Texas Tech is going to come ready to play. They're going to come ready to prove to the nation, like, hey, we beat them once, we're going to beat them again. This is their first time in the Big 12 championship, and so they've got a lot to prove and a lot that they want out of this game, and so you have to expect that they're going to come ready to play. They're going to come dialed, and so if I'm speaking to that receiver group, it's like, look, like, if there's a time to step up and make the unexpected play, now is that time, because we saw what happened last time we played them when we didn't. Texas Tech is too good of a team to just be a little bit careless or not completely bought in to step up to the challenge. Because I want those receivers. It's not like, hey, this ball is coming, let me drift away from it. I want them like coming downhill back to the quarterback hard and doing things that a little bit more aggressively to put themselves in situations to succeed. Because I think maybe that wasn't happening the last time against Texas Tech, or they're being a little bit too passive, or they, I'll catch this, but if they make a play, then okay, maybe it's not completely my fault. Like, no, they need to go take control of the opportunity, every single one that they have, and it is a must. They have to catch the football. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But I do like the fact that Chase is back, Parker's in a groove. JoJo has gotten some game experience. He's even had, the last game, he had a really good toe drag catch on the sideline. And so he's doing it. He can be that guy, but it's going to be all mental, all attitude. And if those guys want it, we'll be able to tell pretty quickly on the field with how they play and how aggressively they come back to the football. and how aggressively they fight for it when it's in the air, we'll be able to see that fight and if they've really have come to play.
You know, Mitch, there's an outlier here with Bear Bachmeier, and I'm going to kind of give you the numbers on this, but I'm throwing the UCF game out because I happen to know what they were trying to do with Bear Bachmeier in that UCF game as far as his rushing. They kept him under 10 carries, and obviously his yardage was really low. So I'm going to leave the UCF game out. But these are his numbers going back to the Colorado game. 98 yards rushing, 43, 89 yards rushing, 64, 49 yards rushing, 12, 59 yards rushing, 46 yards rushing, touchdown, 2 touchdowns, touchdown, 0 touchdown, 1 and 1. So 12 yards, 0 touchdowns against Texas Tech. When you look at his other numbers, you can see this offense really needs him to rush in order to function. So you talked about what you want to do schematically against Texas Tech. How important is it for Bear Bachmeier to be involved in the run game? And is there any correlation to his rushing yards and what the potential outcome is of this Texas Tech game?
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a really good point, and I think to answer your question, absolutely. He has to be able to move the football. I mean, when you look at Texas Tech on the stat sheet, they're number 1 in the country in rush yards allowed at 68.9 rush yards. That's absurd. You know, teams are not getting in a good momentum on the ground. They're completely controlling the game at the line of scrimmage, and these offenses can't get going. If Bear can get going, if he can put up, on average, he's right in that 40 to 45 yard range. If he can get there, well, that becomes a guy that you have to account for. And then with the heater that LJ's on right now, I mean, he looks better than he's looked all season. That's going to open up that run game for LJ Martin. If both of those guys can get going, and if the defense has to account for Bear. And so, if we can see Bear in the 35 plus 40 yard range, I have confidence that if that's the case, then LJ Martin should be, 60, 70 plus. And now you're putting up over 100 yards on the ground against a Texas Tech team that doesn't allow more than 70. And then that should open up the pass lanes and should, get Texas Tech to really feel like if they want to stop that duo, they're going to have to make some adjustments, which could open up some other opportunities on the field. So I think it's critical. And I think Bear, we're now at the Big 12 championship game. Not sure what the future has for the rest of the season. Hopefully it's a win, and then they can get into the CFP. But you have to expect too that, Bear, if there's a game where Bear's going to lay his body out on the line, it's this one, a chance to bring home the trophy. So I expect it, and I think it needs to be there to just try and knock Texas Tech's defense back and give them something that really not many teams have been able to do all season.
I got to tell you, I went back and watched some of the film on it, and when Bear Bachmeier did take off against Texas Tech, he was so timid. You watch him take off against rival Utah, and it's a completely different beast. But I'm watching the film, and I'm like, wait, he's kind of tap-toeing. He's not going downhill. He's not getting aggressive. He's not forcing himself. And I don't know if that was part of the plan, but I'm with you. I think it's really critical for him to have his confidence. I do think taking this game out of Lubbock and putting it in a sold-out 92,000-seat stadium that's going to probably be 50-50, I would imagine maybe 40-60 BYU fans to Texas Tech fans. I just think we're going to see a different Bear Bachmeier. Mitch, thanks for everything. I will see you at the airport. I know you're headed out on Friday. We'll get ourselves into the stadium. You'll get down on the sidelines, and we'll be calling this game in just a few days. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Hans. Appreciate it.
You bet. There you go, sideline broadcaster Mitch Juergens for BYU does a fantastic job. Hans and Scotty, more Cougar Preview Show. Wages on coming up next.
Nobody gets you ready for Utah football more than the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready?
The season isn't over yet for Kyle Whittingham and the Utes as they wait for their bowl game matchup to end the year. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Really excited for our next guest here on the Cougar Preview Show, Chris Level. He runs the Tech sidelines, does a fantastic job on the broadcast. I know he hosts the Coaches Show and does so much more for Texas Tech. Thanks for joining us again, Chris. Really means a lot. First and foremost, how was it to get that extension there for Joey McGuire so you can continue on with that level of coach?
Well, it's both of these coaches started the week pretty underpaid compared to their contemporaries, and now not so much, right? But yeah, I know Kalani got taken care of, Joey got taken care of, and rightfully so. This is what happens when you win and win big. But yeah, there was never really any doubt about Joey getting an extension. I think it was just a matter of when it would be announced. You know, what was it going to look like? I think he actually took a little bit less money to make sure that his staff would be taken care of and making sure that he can still take care of players. And so, you know, I think there's some bonuses in there, but yeah, I mean, this is, I think he had kept saying to people, man, they're going to bury me here. Well, you know, coaches have said that around the country, and there's some people around here that didn't believe it. But he's like, I told you, you know, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. They're going to have to run me out of here. So anyway, good stuff. A lot going on, man. You got signing day, you got these coaches getting taken care of, and there's a big game going on.
Oh, my gosh, it is so much going on. And it's been crazy here in Salt Lake City and in Provo with Kalani Sitake and his extension. Just curious, are Joey McGuire's numbers private, or is that going to be a public number so we can see it?
No, it will be public. It's a 7-year deal. He'll average around $7 million a year. I think there's some easily attainable bonuses depending on how well you do and some things like that. They can grow that quite a bit. And I don't know the quite a bit part. I don't know if that's, you know, where it can get easily to $8 million or $9 million or anything like that. But I mean, I think that it'll on average be about $7 million a year. And because that's the thing, he wanted to ensure, you know, hey man, I want to do life with certain people, and my coordinators and my staff and my general manager, and these are the people that I want to be in the foxhole with. So I want to make sure that, you know, if I'm going to do something like this and keep going here, that we can keep the band together. And I think that was a big part of the way his contract was structured.
I've known Kalani. We played together at BYU going all the way back to 97. So we've known each other a lot of years, and just a great guy. He is what, you know, everybody sees him to be. Is Joey McGuire the same? Is he the good old boy that he comes across? I was watching him in that presser with Kalani Sitake and the commissioner of the Big 12, Brett Yormark. He just seems like he's a good old boy.
These two head coaches are very, very similar. They are culture people. They are developmental guys. They are energy guys. I think their teams play hard for them. They want good defense. They want to be able to run the ball. I mean, and so there's a lot of similarities. And these two guys know each other very well. But, yes, what you see with Joey in that press conference is the same thing you're going to get on a Tuesday morning, afternoon, regardless of whether you won or lost. He's just a good human, and he's just one of those people that when you're around him, you feel better about yourself, you know, kind of thing. He just is he didn't really ever turn it off. I always wonder, you know, he's been here for 4 years, and I always wonder, man, how can he keep this up, this energy level? Just he's everywhere. And so far, he's been able to. So, but he's good people and one of those guys that's very easy to root for.
I think Tech is in a really interesting situation right now, Chris. I mean, I'm just looking back and really hasn't played a competitive game since that BYU game. And I was part of the call on that game, and it wasn't overly competitive, obviously, the way Tech jumped out to such a great lead. But following that, just a 48-9 whip into UCF. Then you get a bye week 2 weeks ago, and then you're done by halftime against West Virginia. Do you think this hurts, or does it help Texas Tech? With the bye week, the whipping, playing only a half against West Virginia, is this helpful, or do you think it could be distracting to them?
Well, I'm going to say this, and it's not. I'm not trying to be snarky or anything, but they really haven't been in a competitive game since the Arizona State game. Yeah. I do think the BYU game was competitive. That's the closest one to that, but they've beaten everybody by 20 plus. No one was expecting this around here, and I keep waiting for the rug to get pulled out. I keep waiting for the letdown. I keep waiting for you to kind of show yourself to be, fraudulent in some way, and it just hasn't happened. This is a very old, mature team, and I think Joey was even saying that before the West Virginia game kicked off, because they knew on Friday night, hey, you're in Morgantown, it's really cold. Okay, is this when the letdown is going to happen? And then they just come out and you just lean on West Virginia and just start pulling guys out of the game second half because you had put it to bed. So I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's a fair question. I don't think so. I think this was the stated goal, was to not just get to Arlington, but win in Arlington. And again, this is uncharted territory for these guys around here and for this program. I've been doing the radio stuff for 20-something years, and there was times where I just thought, you're never going to get there. You're never going to be able to win it's just too hard. And the league has changed multiple times, but they will definitely, be ready. And I know they're expecting BYU's best. And the two best teams in this league are going to tee it up and get after it. And I'm sure you guys saw that, but should be a record-setting crowd at this game, which is really impressive. I think you're going to potentially eclipse 90,000 people in this thing.
Whew. Couldn't even fill half the stadium last year with Iowa State and Arizona State. This is crazy.
Well,
what percentage is going to be Tech fans?
Well, I know some. I think, first of all, the largest alumni base for Texas Tech lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So, and I think the thinking here is that if you win on Saturday, if you're Texas Tech, you're going to get another game at AT&T Stadium in a quarterfinal game in the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve. So that's also kind of a carrot that they've dangled out there to these guys. But, I don't know. I knew Tech fans were buying tickets up, a month ago with or maybe even previous before that, but they bought every suite that was available. They got the people's number at the Cowboys and just started throwing money at all the suites, because there's 7 different levels of the stadium. So I don't know if it'll be 60-40, 70-30. I have no way of knowing it, but there'll be a lot of Tech. But again, Texas Tech is also working on their silent count and their cadences, because they know that BYU will have plenty of people there too. And that roof will be closed, so it'll be loud in there.
Well, Chris, Jacob Rodriguez has impressed me so much, and I watched quite a bit of film before I stepped in and called the color for that BYU Tech game, and he showed up even beyond what I had imagined, where he recovered a fumble, he pulled down an interception, had constant pressures, ended up with 14 tackles, had 2 TFLs, and was an absolute nightmare for BYU. What makes him so good? Did you know he was going to have this level of season where we're talking about him being in New York for the Heisman ceremonies?
Probably not at this level. I think I would have told you he was one of Texas Tech's best players before the season started, but not, and I think what has made him so good is that he's got really good people in front of him. So he sees it all. He's got a clear picture in front of him. But what makes him so good is just his instincts, his football IQ. It's off the chart. He's just he's like a ball magnet, just always seems to be in the right place. He learned, I had him on Joey's coach's show about a month ago, and I'm like, this punch thing that you're doing, like, where did you were doing this in high school, right? He's like, no, sir, I learned that here. And I'm just, that part is just fascinating to me, that because it's just a way of life for some of these players now. It's just, we see it all the time. He just happens to be there at it the most. And the timing on it is just incredible. And you can talk about it. You can train for it. You can tell your guys to protect the ball. And he just has this way of rolling up from behind, and you just see it coming, and out the ball comes. He's done it 7 times this year. But it's his instinct. The answer to your question is his instinct. It's just his IQ and knowing where to be, the angles. He's a very good athlete. He's going to get drafted. He's going to play in the NFL. But there's just some things that you can't coach that make him very special. And he's a peach of a human being too, and that's what very, very easy guy to root for. And the story is widely known as his wife and being in the Army and and all that stuff. And his wife's sister flies jets for the Air Force. She flies helicopters for the Army. I mean, so Jacob's got a heck of a set of in-laws, man, that raised a couple of humans that are in the military and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a fun story.
Well, the one loss that Texas Tech has on the docket was that Arizona State game. I watched offensively what they did, a lot of pop passes, and I felt like Sam Leavitt still held them all accountable with his ability to run. But one thing Tech was missing in that loss was Behren Morton. And the games that Behren Morton's been a part of, Tech has not struggled. They've put up numbers offensively. What does Morton mean to this offense? And what have you kind of assessed and evaluated of Behren Morton that makes him so good?
Yeah, and he's played with a broken bone in his leg since game 1. He's been managing this injury since the first of the season. And I think the bye week a week ago really helped him. Not having to play in the second half last week helped him. But he's the face of this program. There's all kinds of star power and playmakers on this. He's the leader. He's the guy that stirs the drink. He's not been perfect, but he gives this team an edge, I think. I think that he's the homegrown guy, and there's something to be said about that in this day and age where people are moving around and transferring in and out and all that stuff. I mean, he grew up wearing a Graham Harrell jersey. And coming to football games here in the mid-2000s when Graham Harrell and Michael Crabtree were doing their thing here. And he's seen it through. And it has been a rocky road, let me tell you, just for him personally, because he's battled through so many injuries. But Behren has got all the arm angles. He can make every throw on the field. It's just been his mobility was a bit of a problem, especially when you guys saw him. I think he feels a lot better, and he's a lot healthier since he played BYU a month ago. But it's just that there's something about him. He's got all the arm talent, but it's just I think he gives them a mental edge, and I think people look to him. He's a natural leader.
Do you think that Texas Tech has sustainability? Just what they're doing, the amount of money that they've now come into, especially with this primary booster. But is this set up for long-term success for Texas Tech?
Well, and much like BYU's situation, there's a lot of crumble cookie talk out there. There's a lot of different people that are, I think, helping BYU. It's not just Cody Campbell here. He's the one that gets a lot of the credit. There's about 5 to 7, billionaire type people that are been done very well, and mostly in the oil and gas industry. But this is something that this isn't a 1-year thing. There wasn't a let's push all the chips to the table and then let's give it a go and just see what happens and then we'll walk away. No, this is methodical. There's a plan here. I think that they would tell you that they hope that this is the first year of a run that they can kind of go on here where they can be relevant and contend for a conference championship every year. The money gets talked about a lot here, but what it doesn't get talked about near enough, and I think the same should be said about BYU, is the development, but also the culture with these programs. That is everything to Joey McGuire. I don't care how talented you are, recruit-wise or portal-wise. If you've got something going on and you're not a good fit here, he's not going to take you. And the culture is everything, and I think Joey's a master at it, just like I think Kalani probably is as well. But it's everybody talks about the portal guys, but we're sitting here talking about Jacob Rodriguez, and we're talking about Behren Morton. These are guys that have been in this program for 3 or 4 years, and I think those are the pieces that that have been really vital to what you're doing. But this is sustainable, and they're going to keep swinging away at it. And I think these two programs that are playing Saturday morning are starting to maybe separate a little bit from the way it needs to work, and not just in football either, basketball and just in department-wide. I think these folks kind of have their ducks in a row, and there's some alignment at both places, and there's resources, and they're willing to use them.
Chris, last thing, I'm just curious about the two coordinators because they're both in their first seasons, Mac Leftwich and Shiel Wood.
Yep.
When I watched that defensive game plan against BYU, it's just impressive. We talked a lot about Jacob Rodriguez, but that front with A.J. Holmes Jr., Lee Hunter, and that Romello Height, who's so good. How good is Shiel Wood, and where did he come from? And just kind of give me your thoughts on his game preparation and the schemes that he's put on the table week in and week out.
It's a great question. That was a major question mark about this program coming into the season, is that, okay, you had this talent, you had these expectations, but you also have two brand new coordinators with two new schemes. Like, sometimes that takes a bit, and it really hasn't been a spotlight all this year to each guy's credit. But Shiel is a Willie Fritz guy. That's really, he was at Tulane, then he was at University of Houston last year, and I think we talked about this one of the other times I was on with you guys. But last year was just terrible on offense, but defensively they were a top 25 defense in the country, and so it was easy to see why it was a hot name and things like that. And I think when Joey made a move with defensive coordinator, I mean, he really had heard a lot of good they about Coach Wood, and they were able to take care of him. But to Shields' credit, what he has been able to come in and do, people would say, like, I mean, how complex is the scheme going to be? This defense is supposed to be really good. He hasn't tried to overcoach him. He hasn't tried to throw just too much at these guys and try to, like, out-scheme anybody, because he doesn't have to. And so sometimes coaches get in the way. They try to, like, your call sheets there's just way too much going on. Guys get confused. They can't run all this stuff. It's just too complicated. I think he's kind of gotten out of the way and kept it fairly simple, and then kept guys in the right spot. And he just rushes four. They don't blitz a lot. They don't have to. And I think that's kind of been to his credit. But they also adjust. You may get them here and there early in games. I mean, Kansas State did with a couple of QB runs, and then you stop it, and he's able to adjust as the game goes along. It's been very impressive to watch. Very impressive, and it changes your world when you can rush four and you can get home and you can let backers do their job. It's a game changer. And it's a different sport. Yeah, that's the tough thing. Chris, I'll tell you, just on my end of things, just getting ready for this game, and I've been talking about it ever since BYU went final against UCF. BYU's got to find a way to deal a little bit of 5-4 against this Texas Tech front. If they want to get busy offensively, you have to find some 5-on-4, because if you got a four-man front that can rush your quarterback and you have to leave 7 in every single down, every single passing down, it's just not going to work. So I look at it, Chris, and I'm saying I think that the game comes down to David Bailey, Lee Hunter, A.J. Holmes Jr., Romello Height versus Isaiah Jada, Kyle Swarchuk, Bruce Mitchell, Austin Leusa, Andrew Gentry, and then a mix of one or two rotational guys. I think that's the game, Chris. Yeah, I mean, and to me, it along those lines, it's just BYU is built to run the football. This is what they do. They're one of the best teams in the country at it. And Texas Tech is been shown to be one of the best teams in the country at stopping the run. Who wins that matchup? I think Tech won that matchup in the first matchup, and probably forced BYU to maybe drop back and throw it a bit more than they wanted to. But that also the game within the game there. And these lights are going to be bright in this thing, man. This is going to be a big stage. Somebody's going to do something uncharacteristic. You just don't know who that's going to be. And like, man, I hadn't seen them do that all year. And that goes for both teams. But that's what makes this stuff fun and why sports are unpredictable. No doubt about it, Chris. That Tech defense held BYU about 120 yards under their season average in rushing. So I think it's a big one. Chris, thanks for your time. Can't wait to see you coming up this weekend. Yes, sir, man. You guys keep hope alive. Appreciate it, and enjoy the trip down here, and enjoy AT&T Stadium on Saturday. But it should be a lot of fun.
Will do for sure. Thanks. That's Chris Level. He's the Texas Tech sideline man. He's been doing broadcasts in Tech area for a lot of years. He does the coaches show with Joey McGuire, who was just extended. He also works on Tech Locked On, which he does a great job with. So appreciate Chris Level taking some time with us. Hanging out with me now, I've got Tyler and Jake. And you heard it. I mean, Chris knows the game. He knows this Tech team extremely well. And I know both you guys are headed to the airport here in about 10 minutes so that you don't miss your flights.
On Friday.
When you listen to Chris Level talk about this Tech team, what are you guys thinking?
Well, I think he says that we did lose the run battle last time, but the difference is LJ's healthy. LJ's healthy now. I also feel like our linebackers are more healthy.
Yes, for sure.
And
because Jack Kelly was dealing with a lot coming through that.
Listen, if there's any defensive coordinator in the planet that's going to be able to adjust to what had happened last game, look out. We'd held them a whole bunch last time. I really think that we're going to get more turnovers. The defense is going to be even more solid. Our running game is going to be even better. I hate to be
You're
so
feeling
pumped
good,
up.
aren't you?
Yeah, I hate to be so pumped up. Well, listen, I'm undefeated in that stadium, okay? I was there when we beat Oklahoma. So.
Okay, you were in attendance?
Yeah.
So we were there and celebrating. But another thing I would add is I don't think there was a team in the country that day, Saturday morning in Lubbock, when game day was there, that was going to win at Texas Tech in Lubbock. I don't think there's one team in this nation that was going to win that game.
It was riled up.
Yeah.
It was wild. And the wind
Everything
really favored
aligned
them.
perfectly.
Everything really aligned perfectly. So I do think it's a better situation. I talked about that BYU rushing effort. They put up 67 yards total.
Yeah.
And their season average is 195. So held well under. And then I was talking about this with Mitch Juergens. You just take a look at Bear Bachmeier's rushing production and how important it is. Outside of the UCF game, if you look at it, it's 95 yards here. It's 68 yards here. It's 65 yards here. It's 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. You go look at Texas Tech. It was against Texas Tech. You ended up with 11 carries for 12 yards, no touchdowns. You remember every time he went to take off, he was timid. He was getting hit. They spied him.
Well, LJ
took him out of the game.
But how did he respond the next week? What did he say, and how did he respond after that game?
Well, against TCU, they went berserk. The run game went nuts. Everything clicked.
Bear is going at this at a different mindset than he was in Lubbock.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not going to see the same Bear. And my prediction is that we're going to get real close to 200 yards on the ground. We're going to go run downfield. I don't think we're going to do a lot of edge stuff. I think we're going to run downhill, and I think we're going to do some physical line of scrimmage victories with a healthy LJ. Bear right, LJ left, and I think we're going to make actually a lot more progress on the ground game than anybody gives us credit for.
All right, more of the Cougar pregame show coming up next.
Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's a Big 12 title game showdown for Kalani Sitake and the Cougars as they square off against Texas Tech for a spot in the college football playoff. Exclusive Big 12 title game coverage on the Zone is presented by JCW's, the Burger Boys. Quality and a lot of it. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, Cougar Preview Show. Don't forget Kenny J's Catering. It delivers bold, smoky barbecue flavor for every occasion, maybe wedding, maybe it's a work party. You can get your event catered by going to KennyJ'sBBQ.com. That's KennyJ'sBBQ.com. And also, Utah's holiday magic starts here. Experience holiday lights at the ballpark at America First Square. Dazzling displays, music, and family fun now through January 3rd. Just get the tickets at the ballpark at AFS.com. That's the ballpark at AFS.com. It's been a blast having Greg Wrubell and then Mitch Juergens and then Chris Level, who is the Texas Tech sideline guy, on and getting into some of the details of this BYU Texas Tech matchup. And it is nice to get back to football knowing that Kalani Sitake is signed up and he's ready to go. And BYU's got this massive game in front of them with huge implications. It's a win and continue, it's a lose and you're out. At least that's certainly the feel that it casts. So it's such a big event, and we know that this team needs to focus. I will tell you, as Kalani Sitake is busy negotiating, Jay Hill and Aaron Roderick are busy trying to figure out schemes that can take on this defense and this offense for Tech. I know that they weren't sitting around thinking, well, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Maybe we should take the day off and maybe we should just spend time with our families. No. That's not how that went. I can promise you Jay and Aaron Roderick were laser focused on this Tech BYU matchup. And Kalani was in their ear the whole time saying, hey, boys, don't worry about this. I'll take care of this. We're going to be back with BYU. We're going to be fine. You're all going to get your increases. So make sure that you get this game plan put together. I have zero doubts that that's what was happening, that they were all locked in on film. And that goes for the entire staff, everybody from Fesi Sitake through Harvey Unga, down through TJ Woods, and then over to the defensive side with Gennaro Guilford and anything in between. They were laser focused. They're not worried about what Kalani Sitake's doing. I mean, yeah, of course, it's like they're thinking, are we going to Penn State? Are we going to have a new coach? What's going to be happening? But these guys know that they had a Big 12 championship coming up on Saturday. So I guarantee they're focused and they're working their butts off. So rest assured in that, I do. And I also rest assured that these guys are brilliant in making adjustments. Tech's going to come out and do what they do. BYU's got to come out with a little bit of flair. Because when you look at Tech, they are undeniably one of the top 4 teams in the country as they're currently listed. Number 4 team in the country in total offense at 489. Number 6 team in the country in total defense, giving up only 259 yards. So what does that lead to? That leads to an average winning margin of 31.9 points. That is one of the largest margins of average win that I've seen in a long time. That puts them number 3 in the country in scoring offense at 43.2 points per game, and number 3 in the country in scoring defense at 11.3 points per game. They feel impenetrable. They feel unbeatable at times. But let me reassure you, Texas Tech is very beatable. Arizona State did it, and I know that Morton was not on the field offensively for Tech, but I don't worry about what they're doing offensively because Tech is not seeing a better defense than what they're seeing against BYU. Look, BYU had held Morton and Tech to 29 points on 3 extra possessions, -3 in the turnover margin. So I know that they can keep Tech to 27 points. If their defense is clicking and their special teams doesn't give them short fields and they're not -18 in starting position and -3 in turnover margin, I know that they can keep Texas Tech to around 27 points. So what does that mean for BYU's offense? They got to find a way to put up 28 points. I'm glad it's not my job to do it, but I've got some ideas. That's for sure. I've got some real ideas. Hell, I might just come up with something that's kind of a 2-minute style that's all momentum. It's all speed-based because when BYU went to their 2-minute and got that only score that they got against Texas Tech, it was a 2-minute, it was high-paced, and it was quick. And maybe I try to catch Texas Tech's defense and something like that, see if I can catch them sleeping just a little bit, getting to the line really fast, having all pre-snap reads, letting Bear Bachmeier call what he sees in a 2-minute drill, let the offensive line call their protections based off where the mic is, and put the ball in their hands. And see if this BYU offense can spark something. Because I'm telling you, if you do this huddle up, quick to the line, NFL pace style offense, Texas Tech's defense is just too stable. They've got too many corners that can press and run in man. They got a defensive line that can they can almost get a pressure on every pass play with a 4-man rush. Now, whether that's rushing Lee Hunter and A.J. Holmes in the middle, or that's dropping A.J. Holmes or dropping Romello Height and getting Ben Roberts, their Mike backer, or Jacob Rodriguez, their outside backer, or John Curry, their star back, involved in some type of rush, they can get the pressure with 4 men. So have something ready. The other thing is, and a lot of people have paid a lot of attention to this, and I'll echo it, I do think L.J. Martin is going to be more healthy and more ready for this game. Right now, he's one of the top running backs in the country in yards per game. He's number 1 in the Big 12 in yards per game, and he's going to have a big game. And here's the other thing. nobody better show up in this game thinking that it's all written in stone that Tech is going to get this win. I want to see confidence across the defensive and offensive fronts. That's one reason I want Waylon Lapuaho back in this game. And I'm not saying Kyle Safarchuk can get it done, because Kyle Safarchuk has been fantastic for BYU up front. But Waylon Lapuaho is that clinched jaw warrior that you need. Bruce Mitchell and Austin Liusa are both just tough individuals that they know. Look, I know this is a tough task in front of them with A.J. Holmes and Braylon Rigsby and Jaden Cofield and Lee Hunter and these nose tackles. They're very good. I get it. But every one of them has to believe that they can match up with those guys and get the job done. And then Isaiah Jada and Andrew Gentry, I'll call them out by name because I know those two have to have the game of their life. Andrew Gentry and Isaiah Jada, I think that the game rests in their hands. I know that's a lot of weight to put on them, but I don't want to oversimplify how you win this game. But I look at it and I say, okay, BYU's defense plays their best game. They can keep them to 27 points. Their special teams plays their best game. At minimum, they're not going to give up a turnover, but at least you'll get a punt or two that can flip a field and get your starting position where it's supposed to be. If you get those two things, now I go to, okay, well, what didn't happen in that game against Texas Tech last time? You didn't score points. Now what can you do to score points? I can get a better performance out of Andrew Gentry and Isaiah Jada. I can free up Carson Ryan, Kian Need, L.J. Martin, and anybody else in the backfield. Ine Nawahine, who's gotten some backfield time. I can free them up to get into route where I can have drop-off points and I can at least gain yardage. I'm not taking these TFLs and getting knocked back and getting my teeth knocked out. I know it's aggressive, but something aggressive is going to happen or have to happen on this game, in this game coming up on Saturday, in order for BYU to come out of it with the win. Take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up your Cougar preview show.
Go! Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's a Big 12 title game showdown for Kalani Sitake and the Cougars as they square off against Texas Tech for a spot in the college football playoff. Exclusive Big 12 title game coverage on the Zone is presented by JCW's, the Burger Boys. Quality and a lot of it. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Woo!
Get the best blankets and gifts ever and save 50% this season with promo code ZONE50. Shop online at minkycouture.com or visit any of the 6 locations. But your code is ZONE50. It's going to get you 50% off your blankets at Minky Couture. I love that Sandy does this every Christmas. It makes it so much more affordable for us to go out and get those beautiful soft blankets, so we really appreciate that. BYU, Texas Tech, it's going to be a 10 o'clock kick here local time, 11 o'clock kick in Texas. I head out right after the show on Friday because I'm committed to this show. And I feel like those of us that are committed to this show will adjust our flight schedules so that we don't miss this show. And I would expect the same type of consideration and commitment from other people who are a part of this show. And maybe we're getting that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of speaking to no one.
I'm here doing the show. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, man. I swear Scotty's had more shows in the air than anybody I know. Holy cow. He loves to schedule his flights while this show is going on. It's crazy.
Ah, shucks. Ah,
it's like,
dang it.
Now it's crazy because I'm going to call a Big 12 championship game, and I found a flight out at 4:30. Scotty's going to call some early season basketball game, and he's like, the only flight they've got is from 11:50 to 3:20. Okay, whatever. I know that's going to get back to Scotty. He's going to have a fit over.
I love this show so much. Little daggers.
He's not even here to pub up Tim Daly Nissan here in Southtown. Jake came down to see him. Tyler's out here looking for Scotty. No Scotty, but we got her done. And remember, come down to Tim Daly Nissan here in Southtown. Ask him about the Tyler special. That's no payments for a year. Ask him about the Hans special. He's going to find a way to send you to Arlington and get you to the Big 12 championship game if you buy a vehicle. I think it's crazy because I think flight prices are insane right now, and I think tickets to the game, I mean, it's a sold-out game, are probably going to be pretty expensive on the secondary market, but he's going to send you out there. He made that promise. That's the Hans special. So, Southtown, it's easy. Get off the 114 South exit and head west, or get off the 106 South exit, head west, and we're just on the frontage road on the west side of I-15, Tim Daly Nissan. And by the way, this is the only Nissan dealership where you're getting the no payments for a year, or you're getting the Hans special sending you to Arlington. No other dealership can do that for you. Big thanks to Tyler. Big thank you to the Tim Daly family. Big thanks to Nissan. And Cougar Nation, we'll see you out there in Dallas here in just a couple of days. This has been your Cougar Preview Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.